Welcome.
to Dark Narratives. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Alexandria.
The silver Chevy Malibu was parked in a visitor spot, just shy of the gate at the Huntington on the Green apartment complex. The engine's off and the doors were locked, and it was sitting silent under the sweltering Orlando sun. It had been there for days, and no one saw it arrive. No one saw who parked it, but surveillance footage would later show a figure dressed in what looked like a painter's white suit getting out and walking calmly away and disappearing behind a tall fence. The car wasn't supposed to be there. It belonged to Jennifer Keese, and Jennifer Keese was missing.
And some dude was driving her car,
And some dude was driving her car, yeah.
and he just abandoned it there.
Yeah. This case is very concerning for many reasons. I'll say there's something just really eerie about the fact that Jennifer was living her life in such a normal and very cautious way. Like she was very aware of her surroundings. She wasn't like a paranoid person. She was just like us. Like she was aware that there is evil in the world and to just watch out.
Yeah, just somebody who not necessarily has their head on a swivel, but is, yeah, aware. Yeah, like you said, aware.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are dangers out there.
Exactly. So Jennifer was blonde hair, bright green eyes. She's about 5'7", but it was her
Tall.
energy that truly drew people in. She was funny, she was sharp, very strong-willed, and she was somebody who was just very sure about who she was. And I'll put pictures of
Confident.
her. She is so beautiful,
She sounds beautiful
right?
and confident.
Yes. And although she was only 24 at the time of this all, she was already a UCF graduate and she landed an impressive job at Central Florida Investments. And that was a timeshare company.
Oh, so
Not
she's smart
only,
too.
yes, so not only did she do that, she was able to hone in on her skills and she quickly also landed the position of finance manager at this company.
Holy shit, she's only
I
24.
I know.
Oh, that's
So
impressive.
yes, so given that and the success at her job, she was also able to purchase a condo at a really nice location. It was at the Mosaic Millennia in Orlando with 24-hour security at the gated entrance.
Okay, so you're thinking really safe.
Yes, exactly. Like 24 years old, her own condo at this beautiful complex. That's fucking awesome. Although the condo had some work being done on it, she was able to score a pretty much finished unit all to herself. And she also had the help from contract maintenance workers that were on site if anything needed any repairs or anything like
Oh, she sounds like her life is just coming together so perfectly.
I know. So for a single successful woman, this was obviously the dream, and her family could not have been more proud.
No kidding. And
Right?
did
You
her
want to
family live
see.
near?
No, they lived about 2 hours away.
Oh, okay.
So they know that she's safe and she has a good head on her shoulders. It's what you want for your kids to be able to take care of themselves and live comfortably. And also, if you think about the time too, it was harder then because I mean, now you have a chance, you can go viral on TikTok and all of a sudden you have like massive amounts of wealth and fame.
Yeah.
Right? Or, jump on OnlyFans or like Feet Finder, things like that.
Oh God.
So yeah, as I mentioned, Jennifer lived about 2 hours away from her family, but they were still very close and they checked in and talked on the phone very regularly. And she was somebody who moved through life with caution and awareness, as I mentioned in the beginning. She would talk on the phone while she would like walk to her car at night. She wouldn't get gas at certain times of the day, like if it was too early in the morning or too late, because it was just an eerie feeling. And she was, again, very alert to the fact that there is dangerous people out there and anything could happen to anybody.
But the fact that something, I'm assuming something happens to her because that's why we're here, but
Mhm.
I'm assuming something bad happens to her, and it's just makes it so much more scarier that she's not putting herself in these positions that are vulnerable, and you know what I mean?
That's
Status
just it.
quo-y.
Yeah, she actively keeps herself out of harm's way, and something happened anyways, and it can happen to anybody.
That makes it so much scarier.
I know. Sunday, January 22nd, 2006, Jennifer returns from a tropical vacation with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. She speaks with her mom on the phone and they talk about how great the vacation was and how much fun she had. And she spends the night at her boyfriend's and she makes the morning commute to work in the morning. Her boyfriend lives about 3 hours away, so they were doing the long distance for about a year at this point.
Oh, so she's not single.
She's not single, she lives on her own though.
Okay.
So yeah, she spends the night at her boyfriend's and she makes the morning commute to work, which she has done. And she went to work the following day on January 23rd. She finishes up the day and she heads home around 6. During her drive home, she speaks with her dad over the phone, where they probably again talked about her vacation and just kind of caught up from there. She gets home and settles in for the night, probably seeing her bed and thinking, fucking finally. Because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I like start to dream about my own bed when I'm on vacation.
Oh, I know.
It's like the best
And
feel, and I always like
he
to make
had to
sure I got like
work.
fresh. Yeah, she had to work. I always make sure I have fresh, crisp sheets on the bed for when I arrive back home from
Ugh,
vacation. It's just the best.
so nice.
Just before going to bed that night, she speaks with her boyfriend over the phone. And since they didn't live together, this was obviously a nightly routine for them, just catching up on the day and saying goodnight to each other. But
Oh,
this
that's nice.
conversation, yeah, but this conversation, it did get a little bit tense. Just, I think, with returning from vacation, and they had just spent all this time together, and now they're kind of back to real life and they're apart again, and like it sucks. Her boyfriend had later mentioned that at the time it was just kind of, he says Jennifer wasn't really feeling like he was missing her as much as she missed him, like just maybe like a communication issue being apart again.
Okay, yeah.
But he was like, we were both, they're both successful. They were both busy at work trying to get back into the groove. So I think by the end of that night, they're both really tired. But who we only really know one side of that conversation.
Yeah.
So these casual, routine, and unremarkable conversations would end up being the last ones Jennifer would have with anyone ever again. On January 24th, 2006, around 11 a.m., Drew and Joyce Keese received a call separately while they were both at work. Noticing it was an odd number, but they picked it up anyways. When they answer, on the other end is Jennifer's boss. He was concerned because Jennifer didn't show up for work and she's not answering any calls. And if anything tells us about Jennifer's profession and where she was sitting in her career, that is not like her.
No,
And
that's bad.
that's really bad. So immediately her boss was concerned. Her boss was on the
That's a
other
good
line,
boss to
just
check in and be like, this is odd. Just, yeah, if you know
yeah,
someone's character, it's, yeah.
exactly. Are you giving mommy a kiss before you go? I love you.
Okay, maybe here we go.
Okay, I love you.
Or is that Andrea?
I love you.
Is that Andrea?
It is Alexandria. I might keep that in. That was cute. Yeah, her boss was just checking in, just maybe her parents knew something that could possibly explain this away. Drew and Joyce, they don't know anything more than her boss at this point. They haven't heard from Jennifer, and there really shouldn't be any reason why she's not at work, but they're like, you know what, let me just give her a quick call. Let's just see. But when they call Jennifer, it immediately goes to voicemail. And that is not right. That does not happen with them.
No.
She's
And I can
24. If
see,
that still doesn't happen, it doesn't just start happening all of a sudden.
yeah, especially in 2007 when everyone has their phone on them all the time already by then.
Exactly. And texting, I don't remember if texting, I mean, you did text at that point, but it wasn't like say now where everything's over text because like you would call. So there'd be no reason why it would go to voicemail.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh,
And she's responsible.
yeah, and they talk all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so
scary.
and they talked the day before. So if she wasn't going to be at work for her meeting in the morning and she was talking to her dad the night before, there would probably be a conversation about that. So, yes, instantly her parents knew that this was not right. And from here, they call her brother Logan, who is at the gym. They explain the situation to him. From here, Drew and Joyce waste no time and they jump in their car and head straight for Orlando because whatever is going on, whether it be nothing or something, they want eyes on the situation. They want to be right there because they can't get a hold of her. Her phone's off, which is not right.
No, your gut would be falling out of your butt.
Yes, they knew something was seriously wrong. It's not like they called and the call went to voicemail and then they left a message and they're like, I'm just giving, she's an adult. I'm giving her a minute to give me a call back. Maybe she wasn't, maybe she's doing something. It immediately went to voicemail.
And it keeps going to voicemail, and then no one knows where she is. Her boss doesn't know where she is.
Logan also headed out there, but he was just a little bit ahead of his parents because Drew was picking up his wife Joyce before they headed out. Eventually,
What
Jennifer's
about her
boyfriend.
boyfriend? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
Kind
and
of out of order.
eventually Jennifer's boyfriend, after receiving calls from both Joyce and Logan at this point, because they're headed out there, they find out that Rob also hasn't been able to get a hold of her, but he was thinking that, she did have a meeting that morning and she's trying to get back into the groove of work. Maybe she just is busy and was going to call him back. So he was
Mhm.
kind of hoping for that. So he said, he made a couple attempts to reach out to her, but he hasn't heard back from her. And like I said, he was just thinking, maybe she's busy with work, which I can see, but also the phone was going to voicemail. But also, I've never been in that situation. So I don't know.
Yeah.
When they were
And
together a year, her
also,
parents know her 10 times better.
and also, they kind of had a little bit of a fight.
I don't know this. I'm just speculating, but maybe he was thinking too, maybe she's a little irritated still from the night before because she was thinking that he didn't miss her as much. And so she's trying to give it a minute. You
Give
know
him
what I mean?
space. Yeah.
Yes. There's a different relationship between, say, your family and your parents and your boyfriend.
Yeah. And it's,
Right. And even if it's a small tiff, when it comes to feelings, it can be, you do not know.
yeah, especially when you're in your 20s.
Yeah. So if you remember, Jennifer lived a couple hours away from her family. On the drive, they all called around, like her parents and her brother. They called to hospitals, they called the police, they called friends, family, jails, anywhere. They were like, where is Jennifer? Could something have happened? Reaching at anything. And they couldn't really get anything from that. So eventually they speak with the maintenance manager over the phone at her condo complex. They asked him, can you just see if Jennifer's around the area? Is she at home? Things like that. The maintenance manager took a look and confirmed her vehicle is missing. It's not in the parking lot. And at the request of her parents, he went into her condo to see if maybe she was just in her condo and just wasn't talking to anybody. Just who knows, right?
It's
And
weird that they just didn't ask the police to do a welfare check on her.
yeah, I mean, they did talk to the police on the way there, and a police officer was going to meet them there. But on their way,
Okay.
they just wanted, before they did anything crazy, they just wanted to just see if maybe she was there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So the maintenance manager with one other person went to her apartment and the door was locked. They unlocked it and they looked inside. Everything was normal, like there was no obvious signs of any concern, and Jennifer was not in her apartment. So she wasn't home and her car was gone. So the maintenance manager told her parents this. So
No
from
sign
all
of
this,
struggle.
no sign of struggle, and her front door was locked. So from all of this, they really know nothing at all except the fact that they have a huge pit in their stomach and they don't know where her daughter is, and they're running out of reasonable explanations. So
Yeah, that's scary.
eventually her brother arrives at the mosaic and starts immediately looking around. He's got a bad feeling as well. He tried to speak with anyone he sees, including the maintenance workers there. But what was really odd is that nobody wanted to talk in this condo complex. Either they would just walk away when he was trying to talk to them, or they would shy from having eye contact with him, or they would just like downright ignore him with it. Like he was
That's
like
weird.
knocking and they would just ignore him.
What?
Yes. And at one point he's like, have you seen this woman? Have you seen this woman? And he even says in a really good podcast I listened to, he was being interviewed and he's like, I understand that I probably was coming off like very frantic and maybe a little too much for people, but I don't like it doesn't make sense to me. Even if somebody's coming off like that, if they're like, hey, have you seen this woman? Have you seen this woman? It would make sense why they would be frantic. I can't see
Well,
how you would just ignore somebody like that.
yeah, and even if their first language isn't English or whatever, it's body language. Like they would know something you can't is up. This person
Well,
needs
and it's
help.
funny, yeah, and it's funny that you say that because he mentions at one point trying to talk to one of the maintenance workers. One of them even kneels down in front of Logan and is like, no English, no English.
But still, obviously something is wrong.
Kneels down to say that? What the fuck?
It's so weird.
What made it even more concerning is that Drew, Joyce, and Logan, they were already well aware of these workers here. So a lot of them were like contract workers and undocumented. So there wasn't a lot of information about these men. And her family didn't know these workers by name. They knew them through conversation that they had previously with Jennifer.
Oh,
Past conversations raised enough concern with her family that her dad had set a strict rule for her, being 24 years old, living on her own. He's like, if any of these maintenance workers so much as say a single word to you at all, you call me immediately.
what?
So just a
Like,
dad that's just like, yeah, he
what
can say
was
like,
she
call the
telling
police,
them?
but well, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
So, as this is not something you're going to say to your 24-year-old daughter, if it's not evident something was off here, Jennifer had mentioned more than once to her family that whenever she left her place and walked to her car, the workers would just stop what they're doing and stare. Their eyes would just
Ew,
follow her move.
gross.
We'll get into a little bit more about some other conversations and other things that came up with them, but this is where we're at right now. She had also
That's so
mentioned,
unsettling.
I know, she had also mentioned that some of the workers appeared to be living in the vacant condo complexes. So they were working there, but they would stay on property as well.
Okay. Were they squatting or that was
No,
part of
they
their
were allowed
contract?
to. But remember, like a lot of them are undocumented. There's not a lot of information about them. So this was an ideal situation for them.
No kidding.
And I really can't imagine the fear and the ball in your stomach when you're thinking back to these conversations with your sister and you're trying to talk to these people and they are refusing to even look at you.
Yeah, especially when you already know that they were trying to talk to your sister and they were staring at her, and now
Making
all of a
things
sudden they can't see
uncomfortable.
you. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So eventually, Drew and Joyce, her parents, they arrive at the mosaic to start looking. Hearts pounding and probably feeling like they were gonna vomit. They meet an officer there after calling one on the way over, like I mentioned. And I can imagine holding their breath, the officer and her family step into Jennifer's condo. And just as the maintenance manager said on the phone, everything was normal. But it's possible that everything was too normal. It was glaringly clear to Drew and Joyce that Jennifer had been there just that same morning, and something may have happened after she walked out of her front door, locking it behind her.
Oh yeah, unlocking it.
Clear to them, Jennifer got up that morning, had a shower, and she got ready for work like she did every day. She left her sink a mess with her products. She left a towel out from her shower that was literally even still damp.
Hmm.
So they got to the apartment, the condo complex around 3.
Okay.
So she must have had a shower and just dropped her towel. You know when you don't hang it up and it still holds all the moisture?
Yeah, but even when you hang a towel, it could still be damp.
100%. So her towel's still damp, her PJs laid out, and some other clothes laid out. Like she was, getting ready for the day.
Yeah.
Her purse, phone, iPod, keys, even Logan's friend's phone that she was going to mail out back to Logan was gone. So Logan had been there while she was away on vacation with some friends, and a friend left a phone there. So he had said, "Hey, can you mail this phone out so I don't have to drive out?" So she got everything ready that morning. Seemingly, she walked out of the door, out of her condo, locking the door behind her, and nothing after that.
And then there's just zero traces of her.
0. Is it possible something happened to her? Something happened on the way to her vehicle that morning, but the police really didn't seem to think so or really want to look into it further. To
What?
them, it was clear that instead she just left on her own and she would be back because, she's an adult after all and things don't happen to adults.
What the hell, guys?
But although the police saw things differently, nothing about what was happening made sense or led to their daughter just leaving on her own without saying a word, at least to them. They knew, as parents often do, and as you see so much in cases, they knew in their soul that this was the beginning of something much darker than they could even imagine.
Yeah, they know their daughter.
Despite the police turning the other way at this point, by 5 p.m. the same day she was reported missing, the family and friends of Jennifer, including Rob, started canvassing the area and had missing persons flyers made up, and they were at the busiest road near her condo distributing these flyers and talking to anybody that would talk to them.
Like they got on top of that shit.
With Jennifer's parents making their presence unmistakably known, the police seemed to be more compelled to go with what they were saying. Jennifer didn't just take off, and they began the investigation that same night.
But it took that much for them. Like,
Yes,
come on.
exactly. Initially, they were like, no, she'll be back. And the family was like, fuck that. I'm causing the biggest uproar that you cannot turn a blind eye.
Yeah, because it's going to come down to the police being the one who've been held accountable.
Exactly. And even though they did start this investigation that night, we'll see down the line that they didn't just drop the ball here, they dropped the ball in many ways.
That's so
Luckily,
frustrating.
this family is incredibly resilient and take this on themselves, but we'll get to that. But this is not before the police shrugged their shoulders and walked out of Jennifer's condo, offering no plans to secure her home, preserve potential evidence should their theory not plan out, no guidance for the family that already knew in their bones something was wrong here.
Not even offered to keep an eye out for her.
This is where I return to where I left you at the beginning. Thursday, January 26th, just 2 days after anyone had heard or seen Jennifer, the police receive a call. On the other end is a tenant from the Huntington on the Green condo complex, only about a mile away from the Mosaic complex where Jennifer lived. So about 15 minutes walking, I believe. They explained they were watching the news and noticed a similar vehicle had been sitting in their parking lot for a couple days. So they called it in. And this is where things blow up. Police swarm the area and confirm this is Jennifer's missing vehicle. They seize her vehicle and they start immediately combing the area. They're utilizing the efforts of dogs, boats, helicopters, ATVs, and horses. They're looking all over the area. Efforts from canvassing the area, although didn't turn up many clues as to where Jennifer is, they were able to at least get a vital piece from the cameras on the property. The discovery
How many
of
days
Jennifer's-
after?
2 days.
So it took them 2 days to finally get their shit together.
Took them 2 days to find this vehicle that was like very close to her apartment complex because somebody called
That
it in.
somebody called it in. They didn't, it wasn't even them that found
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
So the discovery of Jennifer's vehicle gives her family and the police everything and nothing at all at once.
Mhm.
It does solidify, though, if one thing is certain here, something did happen to Jennifer. Was she taken? Was she hurt? Where is she now? Where are the remnants of her life? Her phone, purse, keys? They're not in the vehicle.
What? Really?
This person parked the vehicle and walked away. They must have had her keys, right? That's what I think.
They just cleaned the car out. They took everything with them.
Was the person who parked it just a piece of what happened to Jennifer? Did they meet someone else after parking it? Did they walk back somewhere? Were there any other cameras? There's just a lot of questions. Regardless, questions the family had just 2 days prior became much, much darker. Let's get into the footage found. On January 24th, around 12 p.m., so the same day she went missing, surveillance shows Jennifer's Malibu pulling into the Huntington on the Green condo complex parking lot. Whoever was driving it turns into the parking stall near the pool area and even takes time to adjust their parking. Eventually
What?
satisfied, they park, they turn the vehicle off, but they don't get out right away. Like what was this? My question is, what was this person doing in the vehicle before leaving it? If it was not Jennifer, why did they take time to adjust the parking? Why didn't they just park it and get out as fast as they could to avoid being seen?
Yeah.
Or were they taking more measures, like wiping the vehicle down? I don't know.
Yeah, or like trying to turn her phone off or something like that.
Yeah, there's so many. That's a good point. After about 30 seconds, a person exits her vehicle and walks away. And when they do this, they end up walking past a tall fence that happened to be under surveillance.
Nice.
Yeah, at first glance, you really don't see much, but when you watch it back, you can see the person was wearing, to me anyways, an all-white jumpsuit. I immediately thought, okay, he looks like he's wearing a painter's outfit or something like that.
Like
But
somebody who would be working on a condo and doing
yeah,
renovations,
doing renovations,
construction.
something like that. That's immediately what I thought. I've seen a lot of people think the same thing, but also some people have seen completely other things about what he's wearing. But if you go back and watch this footage, it is very hard to see.
Okay, gotcha.
It is a light outfit though. Regardless though, you cannot see their face. And just as fast as the person casually walks past the fence, they're gone. There's no alarming indicators as to who this was. The person walks casually away from the vehicle and looks forward for the entire time.
And they can't zoom in on his face or anything like that?
Yeah, so with the footage being quite grainy, years later, NASA actually got involved to try to help, and they weren't really able to get more, like, much more information from it. Like the footage, I mean, think back to that time, it really wasn't great. They were able to determine that the person was between 5'3" and 5'5".
Oh,
They
so they're
broke
short.
they broke the images into pieces. Like at each time the person passes a wrought iron part of the fence, snaps a picture just to see if we can get anything from it, and there's really not much. Like I said, the person's looking forward the entire time. We just have a side profile. There's no like certain walk he does, nothing like that. And I personally get the sense that it's a man.
Yeah.
So now let's get into Jennifer's vehicle, which yielded even more concerns and questions than answers. Jennifer's, like I said, personal belongings like her purse, phone, keys, they were not in the vehicle. There was only one half fingerprint in the entire vehicle, and it was Jennifer's. So he must have been wiping it down. How is only one half fingerprint of the person who owns the vehicle and drives it every single day in there?
Especially when you already said how she was getting ready in the morning and then left all of her stuff, kind of a mess. So she's leaving fingerprints behind. She's not cleaning. She's not OCD. She's not cleaning up every little tiny thing she touches.
Exactly. Down the line, looking from some photos from the scene and looking at her vehicle. This is kind of where there was information gathered at the beginning of this investigation, but some of it just was not, either it was just blatantly missed or it just didn't want to be followed up on. I don't know. But down the line, looking at photos from the scene, they find And you can see on the vehicle, on the hood, there's drag marks, and you can almost see fingers. Like somebody was pushed onto the hood and dragged.
What the hell?
So it's very clear here something freaking happened. Again, further on in the investigation, later, when her parents get it, they see in the photos, okay, there's a boot print in the rug by the gas pedal. It's much larger
What the
than
hell?
Jennifer's foot, and a boot she wouldn't even wear.
And they didn't even pick this up the first time. They said there was half a
Nope.
fingerprint.
Another thing is the dogs that I mentioned, they were able to pick up on Jennifer's scent, but the dogs led them right back to Jennifer's condo complex.
Weird.
So what the fuck? Like they did, I will say here, they set up big grid searches in that area. So they would search different parts of the path to her, back to her complex, but they didn't find anything.
Did they just lead them back there just because that's where she lived and they could smell all of her stuff
Yeah.
there? Or
I don't know.
so there were
I
no
guess
help at all.
that was, I mean, I'm not a dog expert, but that is her path.
Weird.
So beyond the area where Jennifer's vehicle was being searched, they turned their attention to those close to her and the people around her condo, obviously. A witness from her condo complex said they seen Jennifer's vehicle race out that same morning around 7:10 a.m.
Okay.
Was like swerving out of the parking lot and veered out. Like it was like a panic drive.
And does she ever leave her place that early for work?
I mean, yeah, I would think so. She was getting ready in the morning, yeah.
Okay.
So it just makes me think again, okay, so did she leave her apartment and something happened right then and there? So something happened between the time she got up and 12 in the afternoon. That's not a lot, like that's a pretty small window.
That's what I was thinking. It sounds like this is such a slam dunk case. They've got a literal guy on camera. They've got a timestamp. But nothing has come of it.
What blows my mind is that she got up in the morning. We know this. And between her getting up in the morning, her car being abandoned at 12, her family arriving at 3 that afternoon and is already handing out flyers by 7, how did whoever did this cover all of their tracks up like this so fast? Like it must have been thought out.
And a group of people because you can't just one person, I don't know,
Do all
in
of
my
that?
opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there would be multiple people in on this.
Mm-hmm. I do agree with you, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So, since her disappearance, there was zero activity on her bank account, and there still has been zero activity on her bank account. Her phone has remained off, and that enables any hopes to getting any kind of pings. And remember the time, it's not like you can like find my iPhone when
No.
it's off. And if you remember, there was also a guard at the gate of her entrance because it was supposed to be under security. But unfortunately, this guard seldomly, if not at all, kept records of people coming and going.
What? Oh my God. What is
Doesn't
the
that just
point?
piss you off?
That's
You
you
have
have one
one
job.
fucking job. You sit at the
One
gate.
job.
What is so fucking hard about that?
Oh my God.
It's literally the job. It's not like one of those things where you're at your job and you're like, oh my God, this is so stupid, so tedious. It's literally the job.
Yeah, yeah.
So that didn't
Oh my
work.
God.
And although there was cameras at the condo complex where her vehicle was found, none had been set up at the Mosaic, which just blows my mind because this is supposed to be a fancy, guarded, gated
Yeah, it's
complex.
everything that they marketed to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, they set up searches along wooded areas. There was lots of search teams set up, but shown everywhere on the media. So everybody's seen her. And of course, they spoke with Rob, her boyfriend at the time, and they spoke with other people in her life. Obviously, talking to her boyfriend, Rob Allen, who was a couple hours away from her at the time of this. So, although I'm not 100% sure or certain if they took this and then they were just like, okay, you're ruled out, there's not like a specific alibi that's I could find. It's like he was away a couple hours away when this happened. Like the time frame doesn't really add up.
Okay.
They also spoke with her parents and her brother. Again, They were a couple hours away from her.
Yeah.
And the last time anyone talked to her was at night
The
before
night
she went to
before.
bed. Mhm. They did speak with the workers at the condo complex, and because they didn't speak any English, they just couldn't get much. And from what I'm understanding, that was the end of that. And that makes me
Get a
so
translator.
That's exactly. That makes me so fucking mad. How do
They're
you
like, oh
not?
yeah.
How do you not immediately bring in translators? Immediately.
They're like the
These
number
guys
one
are,
suspect.
when police come around, they're going to want to leave immediately. So any chances, if you don't get somebody in there immediately, chances are you're never going to be able to talk to these people again.
Why wouldn't they?
That
Is
is
it?
something I feel like
Oh
could
my
have been
God, I don't
such
understand.
a vital turning point in this investigation, and it was just not executed.
They're just like, no, that's too hard, or that gets too messy, and
Every single one of them should have been spoken to because they live at the complex. They know everything that happens there. They
yeah,
know all of the tenants. They know, even if they're not involved, they know everything that goes on there. They
yeah, they're there all
must
the
know.
time.
Exactly. They even sleep there. Anyways, that's like, yeah, it's really irritating. I really feel like something could have came from this, but here we are. And like I said, we've already talked about how some of them were there legally, and if you don't get on it right away, they're probably going to leave.
It just sounds like it would be bigger work. There's something that it would be bigger work for them
Mhm.
to talk to them than it
Yeah.
would. It's just ridiculous because there's a woman
I
that's
don't
missing. Like, what?
understand how we don't have statements from each fucking one of them. And then when you go back and look at the books, well, they're not there anymore. And also, there's no records because they were undocumented.
Oh my God, what a
So they're just
mess.
ghosts
Yeah.
that she was scared of. So, anyways, yeah, we could go, you could go on a tangent about this for so long. Like, it really bothers me. And it also turns out that Jennifer is not the only female in that complex to feel uncomfortable by these men.
Yeah, no
Some of
shit.
them, yeah, with some of them, like because of their behavior and similar to how they were treating Jennifer when she would pass by, there were some reports that two would be out in the parking lot at like ungodly hours, like 3 a.m.
Doing what?
Dude, I don't know.
Looking
One
in
claim
windows.
I don't know about all of them, but there are some, you could go down a rabbit hole of all these different things that different reports, because it wasn't like, okay, so one claimed that he had a girlfriend in the complex, but the woman never saw his girlfriend. Another reported that some of them would be like taking pictures and lurking around, like just being
Ew,
fucking weird.
disgusting.
And people like even after she disappeared, there was still reports of odd behavior from some of them. And I want to preface here that a lot of these reports, they came out later on. It's not something that they found out right away, that there was all these like additional reports of feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
In 2009, they did interview one of the workers named Chino, who was literally in prison at the time of interviewing him for
Oh
statutory
my
rape.
God. Ew, oh, what? Ew.
So, already not a fucking great person to have on the earth. And this is 2009. So, she went missing in 2006. They're just interviewing somebody because of this guy named Chino, because somebody who saw the footage really felt like, okay, I think that's Chino who worked there. So then they go
Who's
and
now
interview
in
him.
jail?
Who's now in
Who can,
jail, who's done something terrible.
and can he speak English?
Yep, they did talk to him. And he said he really doesn't know what happened to her. And he took a polygraph test and he passed. And that was kind of it. Like there was
Huh,
nothing to really put him there, but he did it, you know? There's really no evidence to, yeah. So
that's
that was
weird.
it. Mm-hmm.
I feel
Her
like he probably
parents,
wouldn't lie.
right? Like he's already in the, yeah. I feel like he wouldn't be a great liar, but I don't know everything about that interview. I know that they did look into him for a certain amount of time, but obviously nothing came of it because we're here. Her parents set up a website, jenniferkeese.com, to bring in any tips and offer a reward for helping find her.
Oh,
There's
and we'll
also
share that, right?
yes, we'll see here at the end that her parents are, this is very active for her family. Very. They still do interviews to this day. And
Really?
you know what? I'll get into it. I'll get into it. These parents, is incredible what they have dedicated to this. So there was also a tip line, but to no avail. For years, the family has been left to wait and trapped in a silence that has stretched on for years, never
That's so
slowing
sad.
down. I know, never slowing down their searches and efforts to find out the truth for good or for bad. They keep going. After little movements for years, and again, the burden seemingly falling on the family to do all the work and seek justice and answers for their daughter, they tried to have her case file classified as a cold case. Because if you do this, you have more resources that immediately become readily available. So maybe they
Oh,
could
I didn't
find
know
out
that.
more. Yeah, so the family really wanted that, but the police, they received so much pushback from this from the police that they were like, "Oh no, this is very much an active case. We're working on this like every day." So they would
But they
not
weren't.
determine it a cold case. Yeah, but later we find out that that was not the case, and it was actually sitting there collecting dust for the most part.
That's fucked up.
In 2010, the case was passed down when Detective Wright was taken off of the case. In 2016, Jennifer was officially declared dead by the state, and
Oh,
frustrated, the family made an incredible move here and they sued the police department in Orlando. And they did this in effort to gain access to the entire case and take complete control of it because they weren't doing anything.
is that even legal?
Well, I'll tell you. The family was like, fuck you. I will do this then.
Yeah.
Newly appointed chief of police was like, okay, I'm going to give my detectives a 6-month deadline to bring notable progress to the case for the family. And if they can't do that, they will hand the case over with every piece of documentation and video footage on a condition that if that happens, they will step down completely from this.
Okay.
Eventually, they couldn't bring any notable progress. So the Keese family won their case.
Oh,
With
good.
that, they gained access to the entire investigative file, which was over 16,000 documents and 67 hours of footage.
Holy shit.
And that's why we find more information that was gathered in the beginning but never touched until they got their hands on it and was like, this is blaringly obvious here, but nothing was done with it.
What the hell?
So thankfully this happened, and once they had these files and they went over them with a fine-tooth comb over and over with their private investigator, they found out the fucking police let the file literally sit and collect dust from 2012 to 2019.
Oh my God.
So in that time, the family was like, we really want to make this a cold case. We really feel like we can find out more and do more for Jennifer. Please help us do this. They were like, oh no, it's active.
And they're lying the whole
And they were
time
like,
for 7 years.
yep.
Oh my God.
So while the family was dedicating their lives to find out the truth and hoping that police had their back at this point, they didn't. So
That's
by
so
this
frustrating.
time, the family spent over $500,000
Holy shit.
in trying to find their daughter. And it wasn't over, and it's still not over. In 2019, a witness had come forward telling police they had seen a truck at Lake Fisher and someone dumping a 6 to 8 foot piece of rolled carpet into the lake. Which is
What the
so
fuck?
telling. This is such big news given we have maintenance workers who were kind of shady. There's multiple reports of that. And there was a carpet being put down at the time. The private investigator
Yeah, they
found that
have
out.
access to they have access to carpet. Yeah.
But nothing was found when they searched the lake. And I do think it's important to note here that there is like an extreme amount of vegetation in this lake. So it's going to take a lot of time to go through the lake piece by piece. And they're still trying to. My thought is like maybe it got stuck in there and they just haven't found that piece yet.
Yeah, it's kind of grown up over it.
Exactly. In 2022, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, they ended up stepping in when the family reached out. So they stepped in to offer their support as well. And to this day, as we speak, her family is still working around the clock to fight for Jennifer. And they have literally made it their job and their mission to find their daughter. Literally, they are the leads on this.
That's insane. So they've quit their job to do this 24/7.
This is their job, yes.
That's
I'm
gotta
not sure
be
if like
so
they do some other
taxing.
stuff on the side, obviously, and then do this, but they have really made this their job. Drew, her dad said, he said, I don't want to go to my grave not knowing where my daughter is. And that just makes
Oh,
me want to throw up.
that's so sad. That's heartbreaking.
From the start and even now to this day, the burden of seeking justice or simply just finding Jennifer for good or for bad has really fallen on the family. And the way they have taken this on, despite the massive roadblocks that they've had to face from the very beginning, they have not slowed down and continue to go, even when I imagine they want to just completely crumble under this weight. The family does have some thoughts of what maybe happened to Jennifer. One is that she was possibly abducted and trafficked.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That's horrible.
That has some validity to it, I think. Michael Toretta is the family's PI and has been working very closely with the family and going through all of the investigative files, believes that one or more of the maintenance workers were involved. There was about 10 that lived on the property.
Okay.
And the theory is that Jennifer maybe came out of her condo, turned her back to lock her door, and was taken from there.
I believe that.
Right? It's real. There's validity in that too. On Reddit, I didn't go too much on Reddit, but somebody had mentioned that maybe there's a possibility that Jennifer is hidden somewhere on the property of the condo complex because there's work being done. And there was many workers there, many maintenance workers.
That's what I was thinking, that they like put her
Mhm.
underneath some concrete or something like that.
And nobody can find her. I know. And the
And the
dogs live
dogs
right
came
back
back.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you can go down a deep dive of all the gross behavior that was going on at the complex surrounding these workers before and after her disappearance, and it's a tough one. And I just really wanted to focus on the facts of what we have because she is still missing and the family is still working to find her. And it seems they have some new information that's kind of close to the chest because you don't want to let too much out when it could turn the case. So it's still very much active. They're still trying to find their daughter for good or for bad. And if anybody knows anything, please say something. I'm going to have photos of her apartment, car, missing persons photos, information where you can go to submit a tip, everything like that on our Instagram.
Oh, good. That's insane. If we could actually find her, that'd be amazing.
I
Because it's
know.
been
And
how many years now? Almost 20. Yeah, I kept thinking that they buried her underneath the condo or
was that what you
something.
kept
Like,
thinking?
yeah. What do you think?
I personally think that the trafficking has some validity to it, big time.
Yeah, there's that
Just
too. That's insane that it's so
how
active.
fast that this happened and how quickly it was covered up is just mind-boggling to me. The family was there at 3 o'clock that day and
I
nothing.
know, and they have footage and everything. And it blows my mind that the cops didn't even go do any kind of well-being check or anything. And somebody else had to call her car
Mhm.
in before it
Yeah,
triggered
I
anything.
know. hmm Yeah, but
It's
yeah,
frustrating.
you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Dark Narratives Podcast, or you can email us at darknarrativespodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, that's it for this week, guys.
Remember, it's a dark world out there. See you,
See you
creatures,
creatures
next
next
week.
week.